unbeknownst to you guys and to you, I had bought the year before Scythe, which was one of the biggest games that came out 2 years ago. And I ended up getting it as a Christmas gift for my brother. And I'm like, I need to sit down and play this thing. And it got huge buzz. And it sat on my shelf for a really, really long time. But the way that I like, the more I heard about this game and everything, and as a matter of fact, hold on. I'm pretty sure I showed you this one.
Oh, nice.
I showed you the picture of this. So what's really cool about the game, it is essentially, it's almost like a map of a world of like Europa, but set in like kind of like World War II, in between World War I, World War II type of an era. Only has more of like a vibe of like steampunk because there's mechs and stuff. So the way that it works is each of the different nations start in a different part of the map, and you start working your way. In the center of the map is an old like abandoned factory. And like you kind of like one of the strategies you want to get to the center of the map to the factory because it gives you an additional like action space that you can choose from as you're choosing your actions and things like that. So what's really neat about it, as opposed to like a worker placement game where you sit there and you're like, oh, I'm going to go to the forest and I get wood. When you produce resources in this game, instead of them going into your hand, they actually sit on the board itself. And the way that you utilize the resources themselves is you have to have little workers in the area. So you like claim the land and then you could use those resources from the land. So a really interesting spin on what he did with this. So the thing that's funny about the game is I got this game 2 years ago when it came out, sat on my shelf. They came out with the first expansion to the game. Without me even playing the game, I bought the expansion and held on to it. They came out with a second expansion to the game. Never played the game. Got the second expansion. I sat there and like upgraded the coins in it from like the cardboard coins to the metal coins. Like I got realistic looking resources for the games. Like I literally tricked this thing out to what you could have gotten if you bought the Kickstarter edition of the game. Mind you, did not play the game at all. My mindset in all this is like, this thing's getting a ton of buzz. People are like putting this thing as like their game of the year for that year. Like it's gotta be a good game. I'm going in blind on this. Like I sat there, walked up into the casino, walked up to the roulette wheel with my life savings, and I'm like, I'm betting on red, and this is gonna be a win. I'm either gonna win it all or I'm gonna lose it all. And like my idea is if I really didn't like the game, I could get my money out of what I invested into it because I could sell everything off as like one entire package. And finally, after like having this game sitting on my shelf for like a year and a half or 2 years, like I finally got to sit down and play it. And I have to say, it was every single thing that everybody said about it and more so. And it's funny because playing it for the first time, like me and my friends, all three of us, we were first time playing it. So we literally went about 4 rounds around before, and watching it how it went before everything kind of clicked in our heads of like, oh, this is how it works. What's really funny is we continued to play it, but then after the fact, we were like, damn, what we should have done is played those 4 rounds, had it click on our heads, and then reset everything and start all over again. But we didn't. But we said like what we'd probably do is, because my wife didn't end up playing it, and we were like, oh, when we sit down and and my wife plays, like we'll do 4 rounds, reset the whole game, and then we'll start again.
How many players can play it?
So in the base box, it is 1 to 5, I believe. Or yeah, 1 to 5 in the base box. With the first expansion, it adds the 2 missing factions that you see on the map. And then it can play from 1 to 7. Which is funny because we played a 3-player and it was really interesting. And we just looked at the board and said, this ought to be sheer chaos if 7 people are playing this game. Because 3 people, we were far enough away from one another that we could start moving our way towards the center of the map. And then we could start like engaging one another and fighting and, like pushing each other out of the lands and stuff. Whereas playing with like 7 people, you have this one little corner of the map, and then it's like, oh, I got to push out. Crap, I'm going to start stepping on people's toes, you know? The thing that amazed me about it, so of the Stonemaier games, like I said, I own 4 of the 5 games that Stonemaier produces. The 4 that I own are all designed by Jamey Stegmaier, who's the owner of Stonemaier Games, which I seriously like. I almost, when you put up the video, let me know, because I'm gonna literally tweet out our Charterstone video and this one at them, because I would so love to get him to come onto the show and do an interview with him, just to pick his brain. And
please come on our show.
Yeah, please, Jeremy. Because like his design and his games are amazing. Like from everything from Viticulture when I played it to Euphoria, which is funny because playing through his games, you can see how he's evolved, how he's designed the games, and how he's used a couple of things from each of the different games. So one of the things that I found interesting about Scythe was he took this thing where you have these like goals that you're kind of trying to do, and when you do it, you place these little stars as a marker on the map saying, okay, I accomplished this goal. And the whole thing of the game is it continues until somebody puts their last star on the board, and then the game ends, and then you do the final game scoring. And he got that from Euphoria, which Euphoria, you had to put little stars down, and then once a certain amount of stars were out, that's it. It triggered the end game. The other thing that I found that was really interesting, a design choice in this game, is you use your money to do stuff in the game, but your money is also your victory points. So you want to buy something, cool. Do I put the money down, but I'm giving up victory points? What I'm going to be getting out of it in the long run is going to be worth me spending my victory points now? Which is really, it's a really, really interesting game. And one of the things I thought was really great about it is the regular size board is pretty decent, but they actually came out with, it's a double-sided board, but when you flip it on the opposite side, it's like a bigger version of the regular board. And you could buy a basically little mini second board that it's the last bit of that board. So you have it just way bigger on your table. I didn't think that just a regular size board was going to take up as much space as it did on my table. And then I saw it and I'm like, Jesus Christ, if we play with the bigger board, it is going to be ginormous on the table. Like, it was huge. But at the same time, with one of the newer expansions, I can see why they have that bigger one, because it introduces airships, and the airship minis are huge. So it's like I saw a thing of somebody playing it, and like the guy was like, yeah, you may want to get the little extension board, because he like showed a picture of like having 2 workers, 2 mechs, and then the airship all in one of the original size hexagons, and they're literally like the hexagons bursting at the seams because it couldn't fit anything else on the hexagon. So it was just like, yeah, if you want to put down like resources on that, it's going to be a little bit dicey there. It's going to get a little full. But like, it has been one of those like unbelievable games that I played, that now with everything said and done, I'm glad I got all the stuff for it, because it's something that like I know I'm going to hold on to this game for a really, really long time. And it was something to say that my wife, like, she had gone out and then came home and was watching us play, and she just watched a couple of rounds of us playing, and she's like, Jesus, this looks like a really fun, really cool game, you know. And she like kind of grasped the concept of what was going on, but she hadn't even like gone through any of the rules or anything like that. But she was like looking at it, was like, man, this looks really, really cool. And that I thought was amazing about it. And the thing that I'm like really, really looking forward to it is on New Year's Day, he announced that the expansion that they're coming out with it for this year, he's going to add legacy elements to the game itself. So the thing that I find that's going to be interesting about it is the way that he announced this like legacy system is you're going to do stuff that's going to permanently make changes, but it's not going to be how current legacy systems are, that you're going to permanently change the board. He's like, you will be able to sit there and take the stuff, put it all back into the box, and reset it all back. So it's something that, looking at that, is going to be really interesting to see how he does that, and getting a taste of like part of his legacy system with Charterstone. It's going to be freaking cool if it picks up a little things of that, for sure.
How much did the game run you at the original?
So I bought it off of one of my like websites. So the thing that's funny is I also got it as a birthday gift. But if you look, well, that was one of those things where I used that to get it. But if you look like online, the game itself at retail sells for about $80. But you can, like, online, based on like an online reseller, you can usually get it between like, $55-$60, something like that. But it's like, if you look at on top of like what I myself invested in upgrading the components, like I've sat there and probably invested enough where I've paid about what it would have been to just get the game alone to get the upgraded components. So like, essentially, like if you look at it from a perspective of like how much have I spent on it, if I were to have bought the game and the expansions and all, like I've essentially spent double what the game costs. But like I have now in it like metal coins, which are really nice to, like, when you play a game like that with metal coins instead of cardboard coins, like the like nice like feel of the coin is so nice to hear them like banging up against one another, making that little clinking sound. And they're not like, the thing that I love about it is that they're not like cheaply made coins. Like these things have some heft to them. And what's neat is when you look at each of the different values of the coins, they're based on like the different nations. So like if you look at like the one coin looks like the old style Chinese coins, which is like round with a little square in the center, and then the different other coins, like one has like kind of like a Russian type of theme to it, another one has like a British type theme to it. So it's neat to see how like they did all these different coins to represent the different nations of the game. That's cool. And then like I just recently got the upgraded like little components, the resource components, and like when you look at it, like he's done before these like component upgrade like chests that are realistic looking, and I kickstarted the first one, and it was like when you look at like the wood, and the one that I have has like stone, metal, wood, like little gems, clay, stuff like that. When like you look at it and it's like these little resin components, they look amazing. And he did like several of these, and then he's still working with that company and makes like a little set 4-side that the little food looks like a little bag with like grain sticking out the top. Wood looks like real wood. The little oil barrels look like real little oil barrels. Like it's unbelievable.
I love that kind of detail.
Yeah, no, it's unbelievable.
That is nice.
Yeah.
How long does it usually take, like, for a game?
So like this is the thing that I find funny about his games. Like when you look at the traditional board game, it'll do a like 45 to 90 minute or like an hour to 2 hours. His games are like very specific. Let me see. Yeah. On the box, it says 115 minutes. Like not 120, not 2 hours, like 115 minutes, like just under 2 hours. And it's funny because you look at his other ones and they're like, oh, it's like 49 minutes. And I'm like, that's pretty interesting. Like, I wonder how he came to that. Like, if he sat there like, all right, you guys know how to play it? All right, go. And just like hit a timer and said, okay, it's this amount. Like, I'd love to ask him like how he came up with the number and all that. But like our first run, like in reality, our first run we played, it was probably like a 3 to 3.5 hour game. But that was more of like we were learning how everything was going. But I honestly feel even with 3 people, like we could probably do it in about 1.5 to 2 hours, play a game. Because that's a big thing. Like even when you look at like any new game, I never go by what they put on the box because like, yep, that's like if you know all the rules, know exactly how your turns are going to go. Yeah, that's what you're going to shoot for. So I usually will tell people, if you're looking at a game and it's your first time playing it, whatever time the box tells you it'll take, double it, and that's what's probably going to take the first time you play the game.
Hey guys, listen. You like the games? You like the interviews? You like the shows? How about you click on that subscribe button and also give us a like? We really need your help here, huh?